Was really pleased with our defensive performance in the second half there. I told our team before the game that I wanted an active, dominating performance on the defensive end. Offensively, all I cared about was them taking care of the basketball and then also sharing the basketball. I didn't think that we did any of those things in the first half. I thought in the first half we took way too many three-point shots. We were a little selfish on the offensive end, and I thought defensively we weren't active enough, had too many breakdowns. I think we took 13 threes in the first half. So I thought in the second half we did a much better job of going out there and imposing our will on the defensive end. So I was really displeased with the way our guys came out in the second half, but we've got to play that way in the first half. We've got to get a defensive identity if we're going to be a good basketball team.
And they talked about how you've emphasized really just being aggressive in terms of the way they need to play defensively. How much more aggressive were they in that second half?
Well, I just think the word is activity. I thought our activity was lacking in the first half, and so I just want guys like having active hands, having active feet, and even more importantly, active mouths. I just think that we're a team that doesn't talk enough. I showed our team from clips from the Illinois game where it's 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 and 5-on-5, and we're giving up open shots simply because one person will say, I got him, you take him, solves everything. So that's what I wanted to see more from our team, was just like, not more so being aggressive, but also just more worried about our activity.
Obviously, Milos's three from the corner really sparked it. I mean, I think from that point on they scored. They finished with, they scored one more point, and that was at the 8:55 mark of the second half. I mean, they really sparked from that point on. He hits the three, and you guys just kind of go on a torrent in terms of the defense kind of setting up the offense. Did you see that?
Yeah, I really didn't know when the run started, but what I do know is like we got off to a fantastic start there in the first 5 minutes, and then we have a thing that we track called strikeouts. So we got to get 3 stops in a row. So it's 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strikes, and we want to get 6 strikeouts a game. And I thought we started off the first 5 minutes of that game with 2 strikeouts, and so I thought our defense led to us being really good on the offensive end. And it's fun to play basketball that way when you're knocking balls loose and now you're going down and dunking, getting layups, wide open threes. So, I want our guys to get out in transition, but in order for us to do that, we've got to make sure we're getting stops on the other end.
It's really, they were able to knock down a lot of threes there in the first half. Did you see a lot more activity, I guess, in terms of that, them coming out to challenge those guys at the perimeter in the second half?
Yeah, now, here's the first thing I'll tell you is I'm bad with names. I'm good with numbers. Number 30. And we told him before the game he's a fantastic player. He could start for any OVC team at this point in time. He's just such a calming person on the court. He's going to look at your feet, he's going to look at your hands, he's just going to attack you right there. So we told him at no point in time can you ever give him an open look, and you can never bounce back on him. So we just thought, I think they shot 50% from the three-point line in the first half, and that's not our standard. We want to hold people to 30%. From the three-point line. So I was really displeased with our whole defensive effort, but especially that.
I mean, really balanced score. You get 5 guys in double figures here, though. You talk about playing unselfishly. I mean, that's what you want to see right now, right?
Yeah, and, and more importantly, we've got guys that we can share the basketball to and have that evenly distributed offense right there. There's no reason why more people can't continue to be in double figures. We don't have like just one go-to guy. I think we have multiple guys that are capable of scoring for us.
Now, one guy I want to point out that I kind of overlooked a little bit probably, and Antonius actually mentioned it. He really felt like Denzel Duffus's presence on the defensive end really set the tone for the rest of the team. Did you notice that?
Are you speaking of Denzel or Dondre? Because you said Denzel Duffus.
Dondre Duffus. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. You're fine. I just want to make sure I'm talking about the right person.
Yeah, it's Dondre Duffus.
Yeah, I think Dondre's intensity to start off the second half is really good. But I tell you, the guy that was a key to me was Jamal Calvin. I thought Jamal's pressure on the ball for 94 feet really bothered him. He's the guy who started our defensive intensity, and I thought Dondre fed off of that. Dondre is probably our best on-ball defender. He's obviously been injured and hasn't been able to play, and he still doesn't have all of his wind up underneath him. He gets fatigued. But I think at the end of the day, he'll be our guy that we can put on the other team's best perimeter player and say, hey, like, let's contain him or shut him down. But when you got Dondre, Jamal, Antonius, Denzel, and Trey, you've got guys that are long, athletic, and can really move their feet. It allows us to switch ball screens 5 ways. It allows us to switch handoffs 5 ways. So Trey is a guy that's good enough with his feet that can switch a ball screen and keep people in front of him. Denzel Mahoney really is just a 3-man. He's really not a 4, so he definitely can guard on the perimeter. So we can be a really good defensive unit because of that activity and that length and that athleticism.
When you talk about having depth, I mean, you could kind of notice that they were able to wear this team down. I mean, obviously it's a different level of team, but at the same time, did you get the sense that they were able to wear them down a little bit as the game kind of went on?
Yeah, you know, and we've got a lot of guys that we can throw out there in multiple positions. So those guys can go out there, but they got to understand, like that first unit that started off the second half did a really good job defensively, and then that second unit kind of dropped a little bit, and then we subbed back in again. So I thought we started off the beginning of the game with a really good defensive intensity. It was a 10-2 run, and then after that, they won that second 4-minute war that we call. So I thought from that point on, we maybe like lost some defensive intensity from that first unit that started off the game.
What do you take away from the battle on the boards? I mean, you guys really were behind, I think, most of this game. You finished it even. They had 30, you guys had 30. What do you take away from the battle, the way you guys battle on the boards?
Well, I'll tell you this, to me, like the way they play, because they shoot so many 3-pointers and they play so small, I told our guys that these are not going to be your typical rebounds. They're going to be a lot of long rebounds that end up being loose balls. And so I thought that their quickness really hurt us because they beat us to the ball on some of these long rebounds and loose balls. And so I told them that at the beginning of the game. And so in the second half, just like everything else, they started to understand, like, man, those guys are quick to the ball because it's actually a loose ball rather than a typical rebound.
And you guys are able to knock down your free throws. I think you hit your first 12. You know, how important is that? I mean, in terms of just these guys being able to do that. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing. These guys are knocking them down against these guys early on. It's good.
Yeah, our goal is to make more free throws than the other team attempts.
Mm-hmm.
And so we definitely did that tonight. So we want to continue to do that. So that attempts, we always talk about, that's key, but what's more important is your makes. So that's why we have that stat. We want to make more free throws than our opponent attempts. That means that we're not fouling on the other end as well, too.
I guess, you know, Coach, this is you get this win here early on with this team, has to feel really good. You know, how big is a win right now? It's a 30-point win. You know, how big is this early on here as we're in November and we still got plenty of basketball left to play? Just as this team can kind of have something to kind of lean on to say, look, this is what success will do.
Well, I tell you 2 things. One is, like, our guys understood, like, they're capable of being a good basketball team with that first half performance that we had at Illinois. And I think you come out here and you win the second game, especially for a team that won 5 games last season, it starts to build some confidence. But we've got so many new guys on our team that they didn't experience the trials and tribulations of last year. So for some of those guys, that 5 wins doesn't matter to them. You know, I think anytime you're able to go out and win, but more importantly, win doing the things that you think is important to your team, I think that's what we got to focus in on.
Where are you guys at right now in terms of Joel? I mean, he didn't play tonight at all. What's his situation?
Yeah, Joel was actually hurting in the Illinois game. He couldn't even play in that game. So we've got to do a reevaluation and reassessment of where he really is. And where that is at this point in time, Josh, I really don't know because he hasn't had a chance to get evaluated by our medical staff. But I know this, that he's hurting, and what we want to do is make sure we're doing what's best for Joel.
Are there any other injuries of note right now with these guys?
This only one is still Ray Kowalski is coming back from that knee surgery where he had to scope for his meniscus.
I haven't got to ask, do you know if he will, do you foresee him getting back on the court at some point in the season? Or?
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to sit down with him and his parents. You know, I want to always do what's best for each individual person. And to me, like where he is right now, it almost be unfair to throw him back out there and expect him to be at the same level of the guys that's been practicing and competing at this point in time. And so, like, to me, my thing I always ask guys when they're a freshman is, like, look at it this way. You could be potentially trading 5 to 10 minutes a game as a true freshman or as a 5th-year senior playing 30 minutes a game. You know, so to me, that's the way you have to look at it. But more than likely, he'll be a red shirt candidate for us. But until we sit down and figure out where he is with this knee and where he can realistically come back, then we'll make that decision. But my advice to him and his people would be the red shirt, and I think he will see that